Meenakshi. Professor Narendra is somebody who I have adored for a very, very long time. And Mr. Bose, who I met today, but it seems we are all on the same page. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, the young group, the Namo Brigade, I support Namo, all the students and youngsters who want to change the political system and political scene. Friends, Meenakshi has already spoken about certain issues which are affecting the country, but I think I am going to touch upon what is wrong with the country, especially in the form of a charge sheet, because I write a blog and I have named it as charge sheet. The offences, the crimes which these people have done for past 60 years plus and 10 years specifically, more during 10 years, are something for which they all should be charge sheeted and put behind bars. They have actually, when you talk about somebody being a murderer, I think when you take away the economy, you take away the money out of the country, you're murdering something. The living life is worse than that of a living being, and that is the murder. When people fear for their security, that is the murder of the nation. Interestingly, any country, and I take my lessons very strongly from America, US. Not because I'm an American fan, I am not. But I look at the manner in which they run their country. And I look at the manner in which the philosophies and principles which they propagate, absolutely opposite to us. Completely opposite. There, they had several states. And every state was fighting and every state was different from the other. They worked together to make one unified United States of America. And contrarian policy, when it comes to India, we should all be divided. Caroline should not accept a North Indian, East Indian, a South Indian should not be accepted, a Northeastern should not be accepted, all that for India. In India, the policy should be to recognize the regional differences, whereas all of them will combine together to be recognized only as one United States of America. So I think this is the first ill which I recognize in the system. That at the time when we got freedom from the British rule and we threw out the western part, the dream of one India is what we all lived with. And with that dream we brought out the Constitution and we all dreamt and thought of one India. The regional aspirations, the regional differences have their own space and place, but regionalism cannot take over nationalism. What is most important is my country first, then anything else. Now that feeling of Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata Ki Jai has not percolated down pretty well, because people who actually, since Mr. Bose is here, I assume he comes from West Bengal. Yeah, he does. So, the vision of Bengal historically was fought both by Hindus and Muslims, singing Vande Mataram. And going to the gallows, fighting the British, everyone opposed singing Vande Mataram. And nobody thought this was communal. Nobody imagined it to be communal because the force was one nation, one country, one people. We are against division of India. We are in fact against a division of a province. Now a community which in late 30s, mid 30s and in 30s, early 40s was against division, 30s was against division of a province, accepted division of the country within a decade, a 7 years to 10 years period, and that too, the basis of the division was religion. So, propagate differences. We have differences, everybody has differences, every country has differences. But the question is, what is the thread that binds you all? What is the thread that keeps those differences aside but binds us all? That is nationalism. That is where nations are determined to change the fate. They change the fate of the world, they change the fate of people, because more cohesive society you are and on certain fundamentals and principles, better results you will have in terms of economy, in terms of security. Until unless you are a secure nation, you can't be a progressive nation. You can't be economically progressive. So first thing is security. And security of a nation comes from the geographical boundaries, geographical entity of India. Now here, a new crop has come up. A new crop of politicians which I never thought. The first ones used to divide, but all in the name of Jodo Nahi Todo. Actually, they were not letting people come together, but they were using the opposite vocabulary. Todo Nahi Jodo. They will say that. They will say that Jodna is important, keeping people together is important, but in practice do exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. Because when you start giving scholarships to students, not because they need it, not because they are poor, not because you need to improve RDE, you need to change the method in which we get education. Everybody who's capable, everybody who is deserving should go to IITs, should become doctors, should get jobs, should have everything under the sun, because they are deserving. Not because somebody from community A, B, C, D. Now once you start discriminating, even amongst the poverty, can poverty be discriminated? Can a Hindu child be discriminated because he is a Hindu? Or somebody else be given extra because the person is BCD, and BCD is getting funded from my NTPC, from my GAIL, from my Indian IOC. Whose money is that? That's not Government of India. Government of India is my money. It's my taxpayers' money. And taxpayer money will go into these organizations which are busy in other activities in the name of so-called responsibility. They are doing anything but being responsible to the society. Because when you're talking about responsibility, responsibility needs to be translated in equality. Equality based on poverty, not discrimination based on religion. And when you act in this divisive fashion, you are making brothers fight with brothers. You are making the cohesive society into divisive society. I'm not saying people from any religion are bad or good, nothing of that kind. But you're not letting people come together as one unit, as one India, one nation, one country, one people. You are letting us be divided over religion, over something or the other, but not giving the correct historical perspective, not letting people know there is something called genocide of Hindus across. And this is not even a phenomenon which is recognized by anyone. Nobody recognizes. And in fact, I entered into an argument just 2 days back with some people from outside the country, and I told them, I said, what are you talking? Historically, look at Indian civilization. You all talk about Indian subcontinent, Indian civilization. But what was that? Entire Pakistan? Entire Indonesia? Entire Malaysia? Entire Bhutan to whatever else? Entire Burma, Myanmar? This was all India. This was the Indian subcontinent which protected Indian civilization. And what have you done? What have you done? Conversions, changes. People coming from this particular community do not have equal rights. They are getting annihilated over a period of time and they are shrinking. And this entire phenomena is not even recognized by anyone. Nobody seems to be recognizing that there is something called genocide happening in my independent India. Independent India. Northeast, you have different kind of problem. Kerala also, which was a more progressive state, which is a better state to live, is seeing maximum number of writing, is seeing a conflict between communities. And on the up north, I have something very, very strange to tell, but because I'm here, I want to translate my message, so I'm going to speak on Jammu and Kashmir. Secularism was a word which was added to our constitution in 1976. And all of you must remember this. 1976 was a time when India was put under emergency. So nobody really had any rules, any fundamental rights. Government could pick up anyone, put anybody behind bars, and my family is the one who has suffered during that time. And for what? For being in political opposition to the then corrupt government, which was corrupt, which continues to be corrupt. And that government would pick up anyone, send the person to jail, no charge sheet, nothing. No fundamental right, no equality before the law, nothing. That time, secularism was added to the constitution. And when secularism was added to the constitution, the Jammu and Kashmir constitution, at that time 54 MLAs were with the Congress, and NC government was together running the government in Jammu and Kashmir, which makes it, in a house of 75, makes it more than 2/3 majority. So at a time when you have 2/3 majority and above, the word secular was not added simultaneously to the constitution of Jammu and Kashmir. Post that, 1986, there was an accord between Farooq Abdullah, the second generation of Abdullahs, with Rajiv Gandhi, and again, they amended the constitution several times. They amended it to the extent that the legislative assembly duration was increased by 1 year, making it 6 years. Rest of the country has 5 years duration. But in Jammu and Kashmir, they amended it, gave themselves extra time, made it 6 years. And brought in many other constitutional amendments. But they never thought it proper to add the word secular to the Jammu and Kashmir constitution when they were in majority. 1986, the picture changes, the governments continue 2 tenures. 2002, PDP forms the government, but PDP also formed the government with the support of Congress government. PDP forming government with Congress support, yet the word secular was not added. 2005, because this was a rotation, a sharing of power between Congress and PDP. 2005, the Congress Chief Minister, who happens to be your present Health Minister, Ghulam Nabi Azad, becomes the Chief Minister. And this gentleman, when was the Chief Minister, a private member bill was mooted by some Dr. Hari Singh of the Panther Party to introduce the word secular in the constitution, and which was defeated by all, National Conference, PDP and the Congress party. Everyone got together to defeat secular. And today they want to give me lessons on secularism. They want to discuss 2002 riots with me and discuss how Hindus have been thrown out of the valley, how genocide of Hindus have happened. In independent India, pre-independence, we have seen other areas which have now become new countries and are basically Islamic countries, we have seen. Within independent India, the so-called secular India, also the genocide has happened. And it goes unrecognized. Nobody seems to be talking, nobody seems to be discussing, nobody seems to be pained by it. Three political parties together defeat the private member bill. Come 2009, the third generation of Abdullah's takeover, Omar Abdullah, and we all hear him very often making some comments or the other about some person or the other. And even this person, even 2009 government, which supposed to be more articulate, liberal, at least facially look more British than others, is somebody who chose not to add the word secular to the constitution. And you know what they added? They added, there was a litigation pending in the court of Jammu and Kashmir, High Court, about permanent resident bill regarding women not getting the right to property and giving away the right to permanent residency after they marry someone outside the state. And the distinction, Omar Abdullah marries somebody outside the state. That woman will have all rights of a Kashmiri. The children will have all rights of being Kashmiris. And Omar's mother, I think, was a Scottish herself. So they get the rights to marry any woman from outside the state. But women don't get the same right to marry someone outside the state. For example, Omar's sister married outside the state. Her children don't have the right to be the citizens of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So they lose their right to property, right to equality, gender justice, everything goes. And this was struck down by the High Court in terms of the fundamental rights of the Indian Constitution, under the Indian Constitution. And the court said this is bad law, this cannot go, and you can't discriminate between women and men in this format. So to defeat that judgment, like Rajiv Gandhi introduced Shabano, after Shabano, the Muslim Protection of Muslim Women Act, which was anything but protection of Muslim women, it was actually to defeat their rights. Similarly, this amendment bill was brought in the assembly by Omar Abdullah's government to defeat the rights of the women. Bill got passed in the lower house. The upper house, because the speaker acted tough and he resigned and things happened, this was not passed in the upper house. So it is kept pending. The ambiguity about the status of the children from those marriages still continued, and the word secular is still missing from the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir. So much in the name of secularism. It is in this context that some wrong ideas and philosophy have been introduced in our thought process, as if to say I am a Hindu is a crime, to wear a saffron is a crime. You become communal immediately. Look at my history. Look at the history of India, what India was, how Indian, otherwise Hindu civilization, so-called Sanatan Dharma, has gone. Actually, we have become smaller and smaller. And how Hindus have been liberal in accommodating everyone across the world. Because they think there are many ways to reach the same God. They believe you could worship and be with the God. You need not worship, then you could be with the God. You could do the right things, be with the God. You can call a God by the name of Ayappa, Ganeshji or Bharatnata or whatever, and you are with the God. So a philosophy which is basically liberal, which accommodates every thought, doesn't want world to have only one point of view or one God, is what is being discriminated against, is what is being annihilated in the name of secularism. What is secularism? I think somebody needs to debate. Somebody needs to say, what do you mean by secular? Abusing Hindus make you secular? Or secularism means each one to one's own religion and state shall not discriminate between people based on their religion? Or secularism means you are free to do whatever and keep continuing discriminating with Hindus? What is the philosophy of secularism? Was this the meaning enshrined defined in the Constitution. The meaning was, the state shall not discriminate between people when it comes to the policy based on religion. But a reverse discrimination is not what was permitted. But today, the reverse discrimination is happening and there is no one questioning that. Under slide, it is happening. So implementation of a basically sound principle is what is the job of the government. And I want to bring up, going back, touching upon the subject of the day, why Narendra Modi. There was a policy of the central government. And that policy and the matter went to the Supreme Court, and there has been a huge amount of discussion on that. In that policy, certain scholarships were to be given to children coming from impoverished backgrounds. So state made, the book is lying in my car, otherwise I will show you the poster. The state says to the minority children. Now you think Hindus cannot be poor? Who thinks that? I think I'll go and ask that question to some of the Muslim friends. They can be, all Christians can't be poor. Or Sikhs can't be poor. Anybody can be poor. So it should be the income of the family which should be the basis of giving scholarships, not the religion. Under that policy, you know how much was to be given? A budget of 10 crore for 55,000 students. 10 crores. Out of which the central government's share was 7 crore, 7.5 crore, and the state had to add 2.5 crore, which virtually made it to be something like 400 some odd rupees per child of the minority community. The state of Gujarat refused to act on this. They said, sorry, we don't accept this load. We don't want to implement this particular policy in our state. The matter went to the Supreme Court. So state government said, look, we are running a program which is that anybody, any family which has got something like below 5 lakhs or whatever, 3 lakh income, everybody gets 1,500 per month. Every child from those families get 1,500 rupees. Not 400 rupees, but 1,500. Every child. And they don't have to furnish 5 affidavits, etc. The money is directly going to their bank account through the schools and places of study, through the colleges. So these 55,000 children are covered by that, which central government is giving in the form of minority. The state government is giving far greater money, but not in the name of religion, in the name of impoverished backgrounds, to all. So 55,000 of these kids plus 10,000 other children get covered by that particular policy. Now, I think this is the correct definition of secularism. That state shall not discriminate between people based on religion. And because state shall not and state should not discriminate is what my constitution says. So nobody gets a first right, as the Prime Minister said. The minority community has the first right over India's resources. Why? Why should minority community have the first right? Are you coming from the generation of Aurangzeb who said so? According to me, people of India, be it Hindus, be it Muslims, be it Christians, be it Sikhs, everyone has equal right. That is the policy of the state. How can anyone have first right and somebody else have the second right? Everyone has equal right, everyone has equal opportunity, everyone has equal opportunity to seek a job, to grow, to work. Nobody can have first right and second right. And if you put somebody first and somebody last, you are discriminating. And you are creating an atmosphere of animosity between not letting them gel as Indians, as cohesive Indians. Because in richness there is cohesion. All rich men and women are just the same, be it Hindus, be it Muslims, be it Sikhs, be it Christians. All poor people in this country are just the same, their levels are just the same, be it Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, or anybody else. So the stratification of this country can very well be on various things, and I think social hierarchy is one of them. The caste discrimination is one of them, and that is why OBC, that is why a Hajam or a Nai or a Baba are just one and the same thing to me, whichever community you may come from. Dowry affects all. It's not exclusive, though it was the Hindu tradition. But it is not exclusive. I think Christians have adopted it too, and so have Muslims, who have a tradition of bride price. So these are the things. If you start working on cohesive factors, you can bring the country first, people first, and that can change the way we think, and that can change the way we look at things. How much time do I have now? Please let me know. You just raise your hand, I'll wind it up. You know, one lawyer, the other netas, they don't stop speaking. I don't want to pain any of you, but I just thought this aspect had to be brought up. But the timekeeper will tell me the time. The other aspect which I wanted to bring in was again relating to the national pride. You see, we've seen n number of scams during this period. What was the East India Company's policy? What was the Portuguese policy? What was the French policy? Because this side of the world was more dominated by those factors. Destroy our industry and create wealth by selling their products, and take that wealth, suck that wealth out and take it to their country. What is happening today? I mean, a professor of finance is sitting. I better not speak on finance, but with my limited knowledge and understanding, I still think the East India Company is at work. 1 rupee was equal to $1 in 1947. 1947. Exploited India, impoverished India, a slave India. Yet 1 rupee was equal to $1. And this is so much for being so chidiya. For nothing, right? Because we were making all of them rich. And 67 years down the history, what is the value of dollar to rupee? 63. No, sir. Has it come to 63? I think no. It was closing on 68, 69 in the mid of last year. The money has been rerouted back into your system. So it is close to 63, 64. 2, 3. So this is our achievement. That as a slave nation, we were equal. As a free nation, we have devalued our currency. So 2 ways of looking at it, that we could have progressed about 70 times and made 1 rupee equal to $70, which we did not. Or we could have the resources which have gone out of the country in terms of black money, etc. We could have stopped that and kept our currency at a higher pace. So much of Indian resources what has gone out. So whenever somebody says we are a poor nation, I say yes, we are a poor nation because our wealth is lying outside. poor nation because we are funding Swiss banks. We are a poor nation because American economy, British economy, European economy, Singapore to add the latest, Dubai to add the latest, is dependent on my money and is dealing with our money. You know, the example of Dubai, for example, I think as late as late 60s, their dinar had lesser value than Indian rupee. Look at the way they have progressed. A desert nation, not even a nation but a combination of federations, a federation. There, where there is no agriculture, there is nothing, and they only trade in money. They have progressed. And what have we become? That we are selling coal blocks which never get excavated. In turn, we import coal from outside the country. Current account deficit keeps increasing. Sun is so much in this country, but we don't work on solar panels. We don't have a single industry to make solar cells. We have stopped working on hybrid projects, which are clean form of energies. Thorium. I am in Kerala, so I will discuss thorium. We have thorium-rich soil in this country. And what are we doing? We are importing a higher value product, uranium-based product from outside the country. Not working on thorium and selling thorium as raw material to others who are working on thorium. So I first pay the money to import a bad technology, then I keep paying the money to buy uranium to run that technology. If this is not stealing my wealth, what else is? If this is not what East India Company was doing in a more direct fashion, this is being done in most surreptitious fashion. So the same forces which controlled India then are the ones which are controlling India now, and it is in this context we need Narendra Modi. We want an Indian to control the Indian wealth. We want an Indian heart to know the pain of civilizational loss that we are going through. Energy sector, industrialization, agriculture, job, everything going down the drain, everything. When we have some of the brightest brains in the world, some of the most intelligent children come from our schools and colleges. Look at what IITs used to produce and what has happened to the ratings of IITs, IIMs. I mean, these are some top class institutions. We have Professor Vaidyanathan sitting amongst us, and Professor Vaidyanathan, I mean, I'm 120% sure if he picks up any management school, he'll get 20 times what he's earning here. Yet, these people have chosen to stay in this country and work for the country. Who your heroes are, who do you recognize as nation builders? For me, my heroes are people like Professor Vaidyanathan, who could have gone wherever but have chosen to work for the poor and impoverished of this country. My hero is Nambi Narayan, and I don't shy away from saying that, because if GSLV D5 got launched, though with a delay of 14 years, yet people like him should have been named, and I can say from this podium that all of you should demand that GSLV D5 be renamed as Nambi Narayan Mission. You should demand that. How we treat our heroes. And in that line of heroes, the latest, I was in Mumbai yesterday, I met two people because I was wanting to charge sheet this government. You know, there is a mission going on, Save Vikrant. You know what is Vikrant? How many of you know this? Okay. Vikrant is a warship. and made a place amongst the developing nations that we could use that warship, win wars, and keep people at a distance because of that warship. And that ship was decommissioned sometime in 1996 or 97 on 31st of January. As the fate will have it, on 31st of January I was in Mumbai. And Vikrant was sought to be converted into a war museum. We had nothing like war museum in this country, nowhere. So it was thought that we should decommission it, but convert it into a war museum. There was a litigation. Indian government came up with certain plans to make it into a war museum, how the money will come, what will happen. But this government came in the way, kept coming in the way. And finally, they said the dock will go waste, the birth will be wasted, we do not want a museum, we definitely don't want a war museum. And this particular machine, the symbol of Indian nationalism, should go to the auctioning process and be dismantled. So it is not just scams, but even auctioning national symbols is what is going on. You've lost who your heroes are, what is the idea of nation. On Hudson River, there is a similar kind of museum which is built by the Americans for their worship, which is docked there. Because these things bind us all. You know, if it's Indian Navy, people will forget. I am from North, you're from South, somebody's from East, somebody's from West. It doesn't matter. It's Indian Navy. It's my Navy. It's my naval force. It is 71 war. It was against an enemy. We'll forget all differences. But you don't want that. So you keep attacking the symbols of nationalism, symbols of integrity, symbols of Indian patriotism. And it is for this reason I want this government to work. Because nothing matters. Who comes to power, who does not come to power, who's made money. These are things, okay, very relevant. But what is the idea of nation are we talking about? Are we going to survive as a nation? Isn't that more important? Compare this with the act of Narendra Modi, who decides to collect iron from every village, wants everyone to participate, and collect sand from every vulnerable place from all the cities, put everything together, and think in terms of constructing Sardar Patel's statue. That is integration. Auctioning my symbol, my national pride, is unethical, immoral. Nothing can be worse than that. Vikrant auctioning for breaking it and constructing Sardar Patel from the collection of waste. One is a symbol of integration, other is a symbol of division, anarchy and destruction. And it is in this context that we need a person like Narendra Modi to be the Prime Minister of this country so that country can be led. Solidarity of one nation, one people can be brought together. A certain misconceived notions which have crept can be unfolded, understood and better cohesively decided on in terms of philosophy, and India can progress as one nation. Thank you, friends.